another day, another press conference, and I do have to wonder whether we hear from Arne Slot a little bit too much. I mean, we do all love our football, but in a week like this where there's 2 games, it's pre-match press conference, post-match press conference, pre-match press conference, post-match press conference, and really, is there that much to talk about around Liverpool Football Club? I'm not so sure. Maybe I'd be doing myself out of a job by raising this point, but I did kind of wonder that today, if there really is that many questions to ask him. Anyway, I might as well tell you what he had to say at this one, which is, of course, a press conference to preview Liverpool's trip to Everton, facing their rivals at Goodison Park in the league for the last time ever on Saturday, that dreaded early kick-off. And there was quite a lot to say, actually, well, after all I've said about maybe speaking to him too much. I'll start with the inevitable contract question which came up. We weren't talking about Mohamed Salah or Trent Alexander-Arnold this time. It was actually, he was asked about Virgil van Dijk and those reports that he had actually been made an offer recently. That was in The Athletic. David Ornstein wrote it, that he turned down that offer, but talks are ongoing, and that was of course put to Slot, as it always is, and as ever didn't really have any update to offer. I wonder again on this with the contract situation. Obviously I used to work at the club, and I remember, once a contract was done, it was immediately announced on our website, and those things tended to happen very, very quickly. So, I just think obviously Slot is never going to answer this question, and by the time anything actually has happened, it'll be straight up on the club website. You don't tend to hang around about these things, so it's probably a little bit pointless to ask him. And I would also say, for that reason, actually, if anyone is watching and is very worried about these contract situations, I wouldn't waste too much time on that, because as I say, these talks are ongoing at the moment. That's our understanding. And once they're done, as I say, they were announced very, very quickly. There's no hanging around, and so you will know as soon as it's done, and everybody's working towards getting them done. So, I think at the moment the focus really should be on the fact that Liverpool are where they are in the Premier League, are where they are in the Champions League. But that's just my personal view. Not a big fan of these contracts being played out in public or being talked about quite as much as they are at the moment, particularly when the football is so good. But anyway, it wasn't just about contracts today. It was just the first question of the press conference, which I do feel sorry for Vinny O'Connor at Sky Sports. He does have to ask that. It's the brief from his boss at Sky there. But anyway, we were asked about other topics, and one of the big ones, of course, is always team news and where Liverpool are up to with that. And it doesn't look like anyone's going to be coming back into the fold for this one. We got an actual concrete update on Alisson Becker, in that he won't be ready for the Merseyside derby, but Slot said very soon, which I think gives high hopes that he's going to be back in the fold next week. Maybe start that Girona game that comes up on the Tuesday. That'd be a great way to get him back in the squad. And actually was asked about, on that topic of the goalkeepers, about Caoimhin Kelleher. Obviously that very high profile mistake at the end of the Newcastle game cost Liverpool all 3 points, didn't it? They end up with a draw there, which feels disappointing to throw it away that late. But Slot came out and defended Caoimhin, obviously said that he's been very good in this run while Alisson's been out, but also even in that game itself against Newcastle, he mentioned that one-on-one chance that Gordon has in the first half that could have made it 2-0 after a Gomez mistake, and Caoimhin kind of digs them out of a hole there, and he said, maybe he's actually earned us a point rather than thrown two away, because if Liverpool go 2-0 down at that point, it's very, very hard to come back. And he said, look, Kelleher's as disappointed as everybody else was after that game, but obviously he doesn't want him to take that forward, and he's going to be starting in goal in the Merseyside derby on Saturday, so he needs a big performance from him there, and I'm sure we will get it when you think about some of his performances in this recent run. In terms of other team news, he said about Federico Chiesa and Diogo Jota that they are both close. Again, gives you some hope that next week we will see them. That Girona game looks perfect, doesn't it, for certain players to get minutes and get a run out, because Liverpool don't necessarily have to win that one. So if you can rest a few, can bring back some injured players into the fold for that one, that would really be helpful. So I think we've got a chance of seeing both of those next week, which is good, particularly Chiesa, he played for the under-21s while Liverpool were at Newcastle and got some minutes there, so he's very, very close to being back in the squad, so that's great news. And on Conor Bradley, Ibrahima Konate and Kostas Tsimikas, he did say on all three they're a bit further away. That was as expected, really. We think they're going to be a couple more weeks yet. Maybe Kostas will be a little bit closer than the others, I would say. I spoke to someone who's close to him this week and said, look, they're just evaluating it kind of week by week at the moment, but obviously it's an ankle turn that he sustained in training. It's not quite as bad as a hamstring or the knee injury that Ibrahima Konate suffered, so you'd think he's the closest of the three, but as I said, Slot said they're all three of them still a bit further away, so we'll have to see how they progress. And in terms of team news, he actually gave away And I've never seen the manager do this before. He gave away one of the players who would be starting, which is obviously not a massive shock, is that Ryan Gravenberch will be in the starting 11. Obviously, he was taken off against Newcastle early, which we haven't seen so far this season. And the reason Slot said for that is because in most games I've been like, look, I can't afford to take him off. He's been that good. He's been that important. What will it do to the team? But he said at Newcastle, I felt like we could cope without him because he maybe wasn't having his best game in that first half, and maybe it was an opportunity because he's played so much football to just take him out and give him a rest, and maybe that legginess wasn't quite why he was at his best in that, or wasn't at his best in that game. So he did say that he will come straight back into the starting 11 for this one, and I think we can predict that midfield will also have Curtis Jones and Dominic Szoboszlai in it because, of course, Alexis McAllister is suspended, unfortunately. So I think that midfield picks itself. Now, in terms of other talking points in the press conference today, actually I thought this was a really interesting one. He was talking about, he watched the game back of Liverpool playing at Everton last season. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp in charge for that one. And he said he really noted how aggressive Liverpool were at the start of the game, and that it felt like once he got to about half an hour in, it was kind of Liverpool had committed 10 fouls and Everton just the one. And he said, look, I want that aggression in our game, but he said he wants them to be smart about it, because one of the things he's worried about is giving away cheap fouls, putting Everton in the position where they can take set pieces, because they are such a threat from those. Obviously, they beat Wolves 4-0 in the last game in midweek, and a really big win for them, but all 4 of those goals came from set pieces, and they scored a 5th that was ruled out due to an offside, which also came from a set piece. So that just underlines how good Everton are in those situations, and I don't think Arne Slot wants that to be an issue in this game, so he doesn't want Liverpool giving away cheap free kicks. And he also said that the wind is going to be a consideration. The weather on Merseyside's not great today, but it's also not expected to be even worse tomorrow, so that's something they've got to think about. Those swirling winds can make it so difficult to defend the aerial ball, defend set pieces, and that's what Everton will be looking for in the game. So the fact that Slot acknowledged it, Liverpool are going to be prepared for that, and they hope to kind of ride out the storm without wanting to use that punch. That was very, very unfortunate. I just slipped into that one there. And I will wrap it up there in terms of what he said. As I say, we speak to him all the time now, so not loads to get into from this one, but I will say about this game that I think, look, it's a tough one, isn't it? Obviously, Liverpool lost their last season, really hurt their title chances late in the season. I think the conditions are going to play a part. And I also think the fact it's the last Goodison Park League derby between these two sides. Everton will be absolutely desperate to win this one, won't they? They are always up for this game. It's always difficult for Liverpool, even when they've been flying in recent years. But if Liverpool can win it, I think 4 points from this week, going away to Newcastle, going away to Everton, that would be a good week, and it would feel like it kind of put them back on track in the title race, wouldn't it? They've still got a 7-point lead, let's not forget that, but they want to keep winning. They want to start winning again after dropping points in midweek, and I do think having fresh players back, the likes of Luis Diaz, Trent Alexander-Arnold can come back in for this one, Dominic Szoboszlai, I think that can give them the legs to go and win this game, and it would be an important win, I think, if Liverpool can get it. Now, I will be at Goodison Park tomorrow, very much looking forward to that. I'll be honest, it feels like an absolute honour to be there for the last Goodison derby, a historic day really, and of course we all hope that Liverpool can win, but as a starting point, just to be there, I'm very, very pleased to be there. Now, if you do want to catch that, my match review from Goodison Park, if you don't subscribe, then make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss it. And as ever, if you can drop a like, really, really appreciate that. And I'll see you guys after the match for my full-time thoughts.